Today, I want to share my journey in making coffee. I remember when I first discovered coffee. I was in high school, and my friends and we went to a Christian high school, and we snuck into the cafeteria, into the kitchen, and the custodian always had a pot of coffee brewing. So we'd pour ourselves a cup of, horrible Folgers coffee, and we would dump like obscene amounts of cream and sugar. It made us so jittery, we termed it tweaker coffee. So that was my first experience, and it's been a journey for the past decades ever since. From there, I moved on to French press coffee, from bulk coffee beans from Costco that had been, over roasted and on the shelves for months and months. And then eventually I moved on to Starbucks coffee, and I thought I was living in style. I would get my coffee refills for super cheap, and then, eventually graduated to frappuccinos and upside down caramel macchiatos. But then I, started to realize, oh, this is unhealthy and unsustainable. So eventually, after going through these phases, I discovered espresso. And I remember the first time I really experienced true espresso. My wife and I had traveled to Verona in Italy, and we went to a coffee shop, and I didn't know how to speak Italian, and I ordered uno cafe, and they just pulled a double shot of espresso, and it was very bitter, but also very revolutionary. And that's when I was first introduced. And about a decade or so ago, I purchased our first Breville espresso machine. And since then, it's been a journey growing and learning and appreciating specialty coffee. So that's a little bit about my story. As I first started out as an amateur espresso barista, I didn't know what I was doing, and I would pull these horrible shots, and they would, it was either over extracted or under extracted, and I was just really floundering. Until I started taking notes, and I developed, over the course of time, an espresso notebook, and I'd like to share it with you. This is my espresso notebook, and I started this over a decade ago and haven't kept up with it, but I would cut out different coffee bags and paste them in here if I got stickers. This is the kind of the equipment that I use, Breville Duo Temp Pro from Woot, and then eventually 6 years later I bit the bullet and I got the Niche coffee grinder, which was the best purchase I've made. Right after that, I purchased a Akea Luna scale, which has been really great, well worth the investment. And the way the notebook works is as I was getting used to my new grinder, I would put the date, the time, the type of coffee, and where it had come from, where I had gotten it from. I'd put the grind setting. I'd put the bean weight because I wasn't sure how much beans I was supposed to put in. And then I put the grind weight. And then eventually I would put down the number of seconds I would pull the shot. And then I would put the brew weight after I pulled the shot. And then I would rate it with stars. Like, how did that go? And so take after take, I would go through, like a lot of coffee just to figure out what works best. And over time, I would take notes on each one and just kind of track my progress. And I didn't know how else to do this. And eventually I would simplify it and try different formats like, okay, let's put the date here, the time, the grind setting, the bean weight. I was just trying to find out what worked best. And eventually I ended up going with this format for a little while, where I put the date, the time, the grind, the bean weight, the brew weight, the brew time, and the number of stars. And then I would put tasting notes like bright or bright sour. And I would kind of keep track of it that way. And so that continued, and then I figured I need to have a different system. So I updated it, and I would name the coffee at the top and put that data right down here and keep track of it. But instead of writing it over and over, I just cut the page and focused on each particular bag that I was testing. And so, you can see I just cut this off here, so this didn't change, but this and all of the data under each bag of coffee changed. Over time, I figured out how to do it, and I went through bags and bags of coffee. And then it was around 2023 that I finally stopped, and I even wrote down notes for steaming milk and how much sugar was in each cup. And I used the rest of it to just cut out the beautiful artwork on some of these bags and put it in the notebook so I could, have that memory. And I'm just going to flip through these. I ended up watching some YouTube videos, and we found that we really liked the single origin Ethiopia blend. It had some really unique notes, and this is just kind of like a notebook of exploration. And I forget at what point we started, when we started Trade Coffee. I could actually go back and tell you the exact date, because every 2 weeks we'd get a different coffee. So it was around 2021, during the pandemic, that we jumped into Trade Coffee and that subscription. So since then, we've just been able to experience coffees from all over the United States, from American roasters, coffees from all over the world. It's been an incredible journey, and this notebook is part of that story. So that's a little of my story, and I just wanted to put it out there and share, and I wanted to hear what your story was. When did you first start creating coffee, and how have you tracked your progress over time? Am I the only one that uses like a notebook to test out coffee and things like that? And what's been the most successful type of coffee making that you've experienced? So if you have any ideas on how I can improve my coffee notebook, I would be really interested in hearing your feedback. Who knows, maybe I'll make it into an app that's a little less bulky and messy in the future. But yeah, please share your comments, and I'd love to hear them. Thanks for watching.